Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Welcome, everybody. Today we have Sanja Rose again, who is a sidereal astrologist, and I'll let her give a 1-minute elevator speech into what she does. I'm super excited to have you on here again. Something I haven't told you yet was our episode is actually the most viewed episode, along with one of sound recordings. But yeah, it's been top of all the guests I've had on here, all of the sound recordings I've done. So thank you so much for coming back. I know people love the information you have to share. So if you could please give a little introduction to yourself, that'd be great.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm so happy to be here. So, I'm Sanja Rose. I'm a cosmic guide. I actually don't consider myself a sidereal astrologer. I consider myself a true sky astrologer because I'm not following a system, I'm following the sky. And that seems so logical, but I still have to say it because everyone's very, very enmeshed in their Western systems, sidereal systems, Vedic systems. Technically, what I use is called true sidereal, but that just seems silly to call something true. It's just the sky. It's the visible cosmos you can see with your own eyes. If it wasn't so snowy and cloudy out, I'd be able to show you where Jupiter is.
Oh, I love that. Thank
Mhm.
you. You also do some branding and coaching and work with other business or
Oh,
entrepreneurs as well, right?
yeah. So I've been a marketing expert for 13 years. I call myself a brand alchemist, and I mostly work with sacred and holistic wellness based brands and entrepreneurs and startups, lots of feminine entrepreneurs and leaders, coaches, nutritionists, etc., healers. And I have a really exciting retreat coming up called Miracle Marketing, where we're going to be stargazing and underneath the Scorpio full moon on beautiful Gabriola Island in May. So I'm really excited for that because I haven't had any in person event where I've actually shown people how to identify planets and constellations. And we're going to do that at that event, as well as create a bunch of graphics and content and pictures and everything for people's businesses. So it's a really cool intersection that I get to play in. I call it cosmic marketing, but yeah, it's really my signature process to really learn someone's um, true sky design or true sky uh, understanding of their chart as well as their human design chart, because I've also integrated this with human design, and then I do it for their business as well, and it's just magic what you end up learning.
Wow. I love that.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. You always, yeah, your explanations are so thorough. I love hearing you talk about your passion. Um, so today I know there are a bunch of big events coming up, and what I found really interesting over the last week or so was how it aligned with Easter, and I think I saw a post of yours about that. But there
Mhm.
are a few more upcoming events, us being in the middle of an eclipse season, I believe. There was a lunar.
Mhm.
Would you mind expanding on that, or kind of explaining a bit of the energy around the eclipses right now and what's going on?
hmm So we are in solar Pisces season still. True Pisces season begins on around the 9th, 10th of March, and then it lasts until the 19th of April. So it's quite long. It's our second longest astrological season after Virgo. And so this whole eclipse season is during Pisces season. And we also have Mercury in retrograde now, also in Pisces. So there's a lot of Pisces action occurring in the sky. And eclipse season is always, it really changes depending on the constellation that it's in. But we have a full solar eclipse coming on the 8th of April on the Monday. And I guess it's like on this, when is it? I guess it's on a Tuesday for people in the southern hemisphere. But whenever we have a total solar eclipse, that's a more rare event. Usually they're partial, um they don't fully cover the sun, but this is going to be like a really visible one, especially in eastern Canada and the eastern United States. So I know a lot of people who are currently traveling so they can see the totality of the eclipse, which I'm jealous that I didn't think to do that. I'm just gonna see it partially for what I can. And we also had a lunar eclipse with the new moon about, when was that? Just over a week ago. Or no, we had that with the full moon, and then the solar eclipse is with the new moon. And so
Is it kind of rare
it's a very,
to have two so close together?
no, that's how it always
Okay.
goes. Yeah, you always have the lunar eclipse with the full moon and then the solar eclipse with the new
Okay.
moon. And they're like paired together every 2 weeks. And then eclipse season totality is considered from the new moon until the next, no, sorry, from the full moon, from the lunar eclipse until the next full moon, because it's like the full lunar cycle. So
Okay.
technically, the solar eclipse on the new moon is kind of the peak point, but it's a halfway point. And so there's a lot of different fear mongering that happens in this space, in the cosmic space around eclipse season, and that's because time starts to bend and shift. For some people it goes faster, for some people it goes a lot slower, or you just kind of feel like you're in a time wormhole, like in a weird portal of energy and time. And often what occurs with eclipses, right, when you're having the sun and the moon eclipsing each other, creating shadows, is there's certain things that end, that cut off. I think of an eclipse like you kind of clip, you clip something.
Ah,
And yeah, I kind of think of it as though they're like, okay, I'm coming in and I'm creating this shadow, I'm creating this energy, I'm creating this darkness, and it's it's actually to eradicate something from our lives.
my
And this particular eclipse is on the Pisces Virgo axis. So the full moon was in Virgo, the new moon is in Pisces. That's the healing axis that we have,
wow.
right? Obviously the master healer is the ninth sign of the zodiac, the missing ninth sign, Ophiuchus, which makes them a total of 13. So Pisces is the 13th sign. And what's really happening right now is that everything that's kind of shifting or changing quite rapidly in your life, which is tends to happen in eclipse season, really rapid shifts and changes, people coming in and out of your life, the players changing, your priorities changing, all have to do with what's really healthy for you
Mm,
and getting more aligned with your own health and well-being. That can be spiritually, emotionally, but also really physically and tangibly. Um, so it can be confronting for people. It can cause them to make big decisions. I know lots of breakups or makeups happen during this time. We also have, on top of the eclipse, we have Mercury Retrograde, which is also a time to review, to reconsider, to rebrand, to do everything with re in front of it, right? Reschedule, reshuffle, redecorate. You get to kind of move things around. It's not really technically the time. I mean, anything can happen. I don't want to be like limited or saying that the cosmos like limit you, but really the opportunity during this lunar month from full moon to full moon during eclipse season is to surrender, to be a witness, to really see what's going on for you, what's coming up for you, and what's there for you to process and be with. It's not really a time of like, let's go after a bunch of our goals and try to create new things and try to launch new programs, right? It's time for kind of consistency and evaluating how things are going and making changes and making fine tune-ups, etc. And also just kind of riding the wave because it can be a lot for people. It can be quite a lot. Mine has been fairly smooth sailing. I had a really weird Mercury retrograde eclipse morning where my doorbell wasn't working. My mom thought I was dead. So, and I missed a doctor's appointment. So that was just weird. And I was feeling really emotional that day, but that was also the last quarter moon. So that
mm,
was on the last quarter moon, and I'm like, what is happening today in the sky? Because I am feeling extra emotional. It was because the moon was in that last quarter phase after the full moon lunar eclipse, and it was like, hey, anything you haven't yet like dealt with psychologically, emotionally, physically is coming up for you. So
I can definitely
that wasn't the
relate.
day.
Like a
Yeah.
whole workplace got eclipsed out of my life, like the beginning of this. So I was going to ask
Uh-huh.
if it's felt more on an emotional level, a physical level, mental, spiritual level, or all of them. Does it depend on the sign that it's in?
It does depend on the sign. So it's definitely very Piscean with it being Pisces solar season, but the Earth is in Virgo right now. And that's where the new moon, I keep on saying new moon. Dang it. The full moon. It's like morning time. I haven't had coffee. Um, I apologize for not caffeinating. Um,
Never.
so with the full moon being in Virgo, there really is this element of it that's very embodied, very practical, very grounded, actually making differences, making different choices in terms of what it is that you do day to day, how it is that you spend your time, right? I also quit my part-time job and finished it during eclipse season, and now this is my first day off. That's why we're even able to do this right now.
Wow.
So yeah, things change quite quickly. But that was my plan. Like it wasn't
And
too surprising for me that happened, but
it's like a whole
still happens.
so as you're saying this, I've been seeing, I don't know, or places I just drive by, like I'll drive past these big construction sites or places that had a road a week ago and now it's all dug up. It's almost like this metaphor has been chasing me of digging up a
Mm,
foundation, like creating a brand new foundation. Is that,
mm,
as you're talking about Virgo, I'm thinking very earthy, very stabilizing, like we're
mhm.
having this chance to dig everything up and plant it new. Is that kind of what it means?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I can definitely see that. And it really depends on, well, it depends on where you're at, right? How strong was that foundation for you? I personally did a rock bottom journey with myself in 2023 where I like rebuilt a foundation for myself, went to the bedrock of my life. And so I've
Mm.
been feeling pretty stable because I had like that was eclipse season 2023 for me was that level of change. Right. So it really kind of depends on where you're at in your life. But yeah, if there is what I'll call misalignment or things or experiences that aren't of the highest service for you and aren't really aligned to your destiny. This is what I've also been noticing is I was talking to one of my friends and they pulled a card that was like the difference between fate and destiny. And fate is like, things that were supposed to happen. You were supposed to work at that job. You're supposed to see this. You're supposed to date that person, etc. But destiny is like your true path. And it's kind of this moment where it's like, okay, great. You've kind of experienced the things you were fated to experience. Now let's get back on your destiny
Wow.
trajectory. And sometimes that can be a quite a transformative process. It can be uncomfortable, but it doesn't need to necessarily like require suffering. It just might be discomfort that occurs, change.
Wow. I love that. That's very profound. I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you said the eclipse season starts during the full moon where the lunar eclipse is, and then it ends the next full moon. So is that like a month from when it
Yeah.
started?
Yeah, like a lunar month, essentially,
Okay.
like full moon to full moon. Yeah, because people might think that, oh, we're having the solar eclipse, so eclipse season is over. But no, we have to like integrate that solar eclipse too, and that's technically not integrated until we're at the next full moon, which isn't an eclipse. And what's really beautiful about the next full moon is it's also in Virgo because Virgo is our longest constellation. So we had the last full moon at the beginning of Virgo, and this one's going to be near the end of Virgo. And so we really get to integrate the energy very profoundly. Hmm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
With Pisces
Hmm.
in between. So everything I know about Pisces and it being the final zodiac, very spiritual, very all the ideas coming together. So that in combination with a very earthy sign, it's kind of like everything in between will be absorbed, like it's all encompassing.
Yeah. Everything between heaven and earth is here to be processed. It's very different from the Western astrological story happening right now with it being an Aries eclipse and it being a Libra full moon. Like it's just not that's just not the timeline of reality in my point of view, but it's what a lot of people believe. So there's a lot of thought form, there's a lot of external validation, and so they feel pretty validated in it. And there's also, I'm just going to say it, there's a really weird spell of energy that's been there since Roman times around Western astrology. And when I was a Western astrologer, it literally feels like you're high. Like it's a wild, it's a wild experience. Like when I used to read, even as a Western astrologer, I felt like there was, this might sound kind of creepy, but whatever. We're in the world of energetics and spirituality, and it's Pisces season, so we can talk about the depths.
Right.
But it literally felt like there was like another force that was like speaking through me, that wasn't just my connection to the cosmos or to my my client's like higher self, which is how I consider my reading to be. It's like, oh, it's their higher self, their soul, their cosmic blueprint wanting to speak
Mhm.
out, and I'm just the interpreter, right? It's like I'm just translating for them, and their chart is talking and I'm just the translator, right? Because I don't remember a thing after I do an astrological reading for people. Like I might remember one point that I need to remember so I can support them on their journey, or if we're working together more. I mean, I'll look it up, but yeah, it's very interesting. Whereas when I was doing Western astrology, I felt like there was this other force there, like this other, I wouldn't say voice, but it was just like another
Do
energy.
you think it's
And since I
like the combined,
true astrology,
sorry, do you think it's
mhm.
like the combined collective energy behind Western astrology? Like, is that the big heavy shadow? Is this big collective belief because there are so many people that follow it? Or do you feel it's something different?
No, I think that it's I think that I
Nothing
don't know
too
if I
weird.
want to get into it. It's like if people are gonna just uh, I've sat with it for a long time. I've been studying the true sky for almost 4 years. So it's a very, like, I don't even remember the Western astrological seasons. I'm like, oh, it's Aries season. I have no idea because I don't follow it anymore. It's not real to me. And it's not real. And so the thing about it is that the Roman rulers that really popularized astrology, they used it to plan war, to deify themselves, to make themselves magnificent. They I, it's my sensation, and I was there in a past life, whether or not you believe that or not, but it was nefarious. Like they wanted to control people's understanding of themselves and understanding of their spirituality so that they would not be fully sovereign beings.
Mhm.
It was not, it's like, to me, Western astrology is not just like, oh, that's old astrology, it's out of date. It's dangerous for your identity and your sense of spiritual connection to the cosmos and to yourself to follow something that's like not accurate and 1700 years out of date.
Well, something I really believe in is intentionality. And when I was learning about sound healing, one of the founders of this program said 80% of the healing is intention, 20% is the modality. So if the intention
Hmm.
behind Western astrology started off with an intent to be manipulative
Control.
and control,
Hmm.
then I hear what you're saying 100%, which is, yeah, not everybody, maybe not everybody will agree with it, but one thing I feel when I'm speaking with you is I can feel the lightness in your energy and just how open and true, and just it resonates in a different way because it's like there's no filters, there's no, it's so
Mm.
transparent, it's so honest, it's so open because it's just
Mm.
like that connection. And a lot of what
Hmm.
you do I can relate to, like my sound sessions. I barely remember unless I get into that energy again with that client or start talking about it, it's gone. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like when we're in that frequency of truth and we come down from it, like, yeah, we're not attached to it anymore.
Hmm.
I hear you.
Yeah, especially when it's not for us, when we're doing it in service of someone else, when the energy and the healing and the message is for them, like
Hmm.
that's not for me to be sitting there thinking about someone's Mars and Venus.
Right?
Like, right? That's also not really how, like, in terms of boundaries, how I really want to spend my time when I'm working with them. That's great. But otherwise, they're in their energy, I'm in mine. It's about like sovereignty and respect and boundaries, really, and health.
Yes.
Um, and something that's really interesting, and thank you so much for saying that, because lately I've been seeing a lot of posts about how the truth just hits different, right? When you hear it, no matter what topic we're talking about, like it just resonates. It has a different register, it has a different frequency, and it'll kind of just, and that doesn't mean that, the old saying, like the truth will piss you off. Like it doesn't mean that it won't activate you,
Trigger.
trigger you, even bring up fear, right? When I bring up that I sense and know, like I know that Western astrology is a dark spell, a lot of people get really afraid of that, right? Because there's so much fear around spells and around like spiritual manipulation. And how could that happen in the world of self empowerment, right? It's a big betrayal to go through. And I've had like programs and lots of support for people that transition from Western to true astrology, because they're so demystified that they don't even know what to trust, that even when they do find the truth, they don't even trust that, because they've been so lied to, right? It's like being abused. And so, yeah,
And
it is. It's spiritual abuse, cosmic abuse, honestly.
I'm so grateful you're saying this too, because another, like a pro of resonating with that truth frequency is aligning and attracting more people that have this heart-centered focus and are
Mhm.
working with a passion to assist others, because I too have experienced that. um, and one of the biggest messages that comes up when I speak to people like you who are in alignment with their purpose and truly have the heart to help others is that we don't want to take that power away. And the number one message is because I think we've all experienced those very vulnerable moments where we are so reliant on someone else to fix our problems, and they want us to be reliant on them because that brings in money for them.
Mhm.
It's no,
Mhm.
be empowered. Let me show you your way home. Let me bring you back into yourself
Yeah.
and empower you with the tools. And if I could use this platform for anything among any spiritual teaching, it would be that. And I'm so grateful to know people
Mhm.
like you because I know your intention and mission. And it's unfortunate when people are, yeah, spiritually traumatized because they've gotten
Mhm.
themselves or they've been in situations. But I find it helps. Usually in the first session, I tell people not to trust me. I say, don't trust me. Take what resonates. But the most important thing is for you to be discerning. And,
Mhm.
I know you're the same way with wanting to respect boundaries and just that it doesn't stick around beyond the intention to benefit the person we're working with. Wow, I was not expecting this
Mhm.
to come up today.
Yeah, a part of
So
the
fun.
conversation around the ethics
It's
of
important.
the ethics of working in a field of deep work that has to do with healing and self-love and self-understanding and acceptance. And you know in my point of view, your astrology and your human design is the most empowering information you can know, because it teaches you about the unique magic and miracle that is you, that is the complexity of you. And with human design specifically, it teaches that you are the authority. No one else is your authority. So when I'm teaching people about it, I'm like, this is how you make decisions. Listen to this part of your body. And I'm just teaching them how to do that. I always think of it as like, I just have a candle and I'm lighting their candle, and I'm like, you go off and light more.
Yes.
Right.
Beautiful.
And yeah, it's very interesting. And yeah, it's a very different perspective. I work with a lot of healers, and often, they'll say to me like they're really trying to be the best of the best that they can be, and they're still continuing to pursue different trainings and different modalities, and they're like, am I going to be good enough? And I'm like, hey, remember that you're not actually responsible for that person's healing. They are, right? You're a conduit, you're a tool, you're here to teach them, you're here to empower them, you're here to give them resources, you're here to hold space, but you're like, really, the best healers know that they are not the ones healing the other person.
Mhm.
They're just
Amen.
opening up the channel. Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we got to get that out because, wow, if that
Yeah.
can be yeah, if that was our
Hmm.
flame being put into this conversation and it can go out, what a beautiful.
Well, what's really cool is it actually really relates to the Pisces and Virgo
So
energy that's happening during this eclipse, because it might be that for those of you listening to this, it might be the health realignment that you're needing during this eclipse season is to stop, taking an external authority or like a healer or someone else as like higher than you, pedestaling them, and not knowing that you have the power to heal yourself and that they're just showing you tools and capabilities to do so,
girl.
right? And yeah, and also especially when it has to do with the spiritual realm, like an eclipse season is a great time to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start following the actual sky. Like my whole thing with astrology is you don't need me to connect to the sky. You need your own eyeballs and a dark night. That's all you need. You don't
Love
need me at
it.
all. Like just go out and connect to it by yourself. Like I don't I'm not going to tell you how to feel about it, right?
I
There was a time when I even felt resistant to even giving readings about what's happening because I'm like, well, that's my sensation, right? I have been doing it for a while. I'm a professional astrologer, but I always do that. And I'm like, what do you guys think? Like, what are you feeling? Like, tell me your experience. What's your interpretation? Which is why I love teaching other astrologers and readers in my cosmic arts training because I don't like, and I have a guest teacher in there because I'm not the holier than thou guru that knows how to interpret the cosmos better than you do, right?
right,
We're all cosmic artists and all of our perspectives are needed.
right,
Mhm.
and yeah, going within. Okay, I do want to ask another question. I try to keep these to 30-ish minutes, but we might go a little over. Um,
Yeah, that's fine.
One that, okay, and also I keep seeing since our last conversation, I've seen way more posts about sidereal astrology or true astrology. Like there's been this debate during this eclipse, like this almost imposter syndrome about the two different signs that it could be in, which I never saw before. Like during our first
Hmm.
conversation, which is so cool to see that this
Hmm.
is gaining momentum in the collective as well, and it's showing up as confusion right now, but still the fact that people
Hmm.
are getting some, or it's getting some awareness, is really cool. um
Hmm. Tides are turning.
wow, the truth. The truth, man. um
Truth will come out. I mean, Pluto's in Capricorn. It's bound to happen. So, hmm.
Obviously. um
Hmm.
Jupiter and Uranus, I keep seeing, and I've been looking into it a little bit myself as well. From my understanding, it's a very prosperous alignment that only happens every 84-ish
Hmm.
years, or that's my very little bit of
Hmm.
knowledge on it. Would you mind enlightening us a bit?
Yes. So I don't actually know how often it happens because Uranus moves quite slowly and Jupiter is like kind of mid range movement, but they've both been in Aries for quite some time. And when we start true Aries season, which is on the 20th of April, the next day is when the Uranus Jupiter alignment happens in Aries. It's really interesting because it's happening near the end of Aries. So they kind of like took their sweet time to like join together and they're like, okay, we're going to do this at the very end of Aries.
Wow.
And it's interesting because there's a big opportunity for massive expansion, big revelations, epiphanies, like whole new ways of thinking and groups of people that you're drawn to because they think in a different way, right? And it's very novel, it's very new, and some of it might be like big technological advancements might be very prominent to happen during this time. um, there's going to be a big shift. And similar with when Jupiter and Saturn met in 2020, that was the biggest astrological event like in our known time. Like if you look at, I like to look at Google Trends, it's part of what I do in marketing, but I looked at astrology in terms of its trends, and it was December 2020 when they had that grand conjunction that it was the highest. And that's when people started really following astrology. Now it's too bad that they were literally looking at the sky and couldn't see that that was happening in a different sign than what they were being told, but that's okay.
Which sign was it
And so
in?
I just realized that I don't actually know because at that time I was a Western astrologer.
Wow.
And I think I looked back at it retroactively. I can look it up.
I'll get
That's going to drive me nuts.
that's when
I
I
know.
that's when I became interested in it too, or that's when I started to really start looking into astrology. And I mean, things were lining up, and even if it wasn't in the true sign, like certain conjunctions that were being spoken about, or like it was kind of like my gateway or my baby steps into resonating with the stars and learning about my birth chart was probably a few months after that, and
Mhm.
things have never been the same ever since.
Yeah, it was a big time. It was a really big time. So I'm looking at it right now. Okay, yeah. So it was right at the end of Sag, at the beginning of Capricorn, which is really interesting because that's just where Pluto was for a while, was in the cusp of Sag and Capricorn, and now it's moved closer to Sagittarius. I mean, Pluto moves incredibly slow, but yeah, it was literally right in the cusp between those two signs. Um, when they met, which is so fascinating. Like, I could go into a whole tirade about that. But let's go back to Uranus and Jupiter. Uranus and Jupiter meeting at the end of Aries, close to Taurus, is also about new energy coming in. I mean, new people. Jupiter is always about your community, new people, people that you know, information that you know. And then Uranus is higher knowledge, higher science, like even galactic, universal knowledge, like collective consciousness coming into your stream of knowing. And with it being in Aries, it's like, ooh, time for this to change, time for this to start something new. So it's a very beautiful conjunction to have at the beginning of Aries season, because it's like new on new on new energy, and it will be happening just before this eclipse season ends. So it's like the last couple days of this eclipse season is kind of like, okay, what have we learned, what have we witnessed, what has been shifted in our lives, what has maybe been removed, what has maybe been pulled closer, and now, like, what really has to change. And it's going to be profound. Like, I would not be surprised at all if a lot of people just started changing their beliefs very rapidly around what's actually happening in the world, in terms of the news, in terms of the military industrial complex, like politics, etc. And if they awaken to like a new way of thinking, essentially, and that could even be just like, shifting over to following the true sky in astrology. um
Mhm.
it's It's interesting. It's interesting. There are also, there could also be very interesting learning that we could have around how, because when I think of Uranus and Jupiter, that's also like explosive energy. Um, and that can be the use of technology, especially with Aries ruling over war. It's like the use of technology in war, or the use of, um,
Mm.
yeah, pretty much the use of like technology or even social media or whatever it might be, in order to like propagate war or continue on war. Like, and then people learning about that. Yeah, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. And I really don't like giving readings like
Yeah.
that, especially like those collective kind of shifts that might be happening in world governments or in like big conflicts. But
And how much of that will be
yeah.
even be allowed to be seen. And I hear you, because the other day,
Mhm.
I'm usually not one to bring up topics like that, but I felt really called to ask a certain group that I'm part of about what their take was on solar flares. Like, that's been really coming up, like this big igniting. Like, I'm feeling the energy of
Uh-huh.
what you're saying around war, and yeah, just this big explosive energy, and what's hotter than the sun. Like, that's just what's coming up in my mind, and I don't know if
Mm,
yeah, kind of along the same
mm.
timeline.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many solar flares. The solar flare activity has been quite prominent, like this year so far. And um, it's also interesting when we think about like technology and information spreading, like scientific information spreading and expanding. And like, it might be more narrative around like the climate crisis or emergency, but then also like truth coming out about that. I'm not sure if you've seen this new documentary called Climate, the Cold Truth.
No.
It's whew, climate the cold truth, people. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find on YouTube because it's definitely being suppressed right now.
Okay.
Um, yeah, let me just actually search for it so I can see if you can even find it. But it's literally like Nobel Peace Prize winning scientists, meteorologists, physicists who have studied weather like across time and have studied carbon and carbon dioxide, and they just literally they speak the science of what's happening rather than the greater narrative of what's occurring that can be used for political gain. And it is literally mind blowing. And again, it has that frequency of, oh my gosh, when you hear the truth and you see the evidence with your own eyes, you're like, where has this been?
Mm,
But, even like the scientific world is incredibly corrupt. Like it's so corrupted with corporate and political agendas that I think that this, like with Uranus and Jupiter meeting, it's like, whoa, there's going to be a firestorm of perhaps like scientists coming out and really speaking because as they've done that even over the last few years, they've been these whistleblowers that have been not allowed to speak. They've been suppressed. They've been um, made fun of. They've lost their jobs. They've been ostracized from the scientific community for literally speaking about the evidence and science that they see, but it goes against the narrative that is accepted. So it's really fast. Okay, yeah, it's called Climate the movie The Cold Truth by Clintel, Clintel.
if I find it, maybe, or I'll attach a link to this episode too.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, yeah, this month, like, all I want to do is sleep right now. There's so much energy going on. I can feel that. So, with the eclipses, oh, and final question then. So, after this Jupiter Uranus conjunction, which is around the 20th, do you know when the next full moon is after that?
Yeah, it's on the
The
23rd.
23rd. Okay. So, we've got lots.
Yeah, so the next Virgo full moon is on the 23rd.
And this is more, I use these astrological or the astrological information more intently than the weather forecast. Like, if I know what's going on energetically, I can prepare for snow,
Mhm.
rain, anything like that. But knowing what's going on since this journey has begun, and it's so valuable to speak to someone like you who has an even more intimate relationship and intimate knowledge with it. Is there anything else you feel would be valuable to share? Oh, it's 11:11 right now. Is there anything
Ooh,
else
ooh.
you?
Yeah, I wanted to mention because that's not the only event happening with Uranus and Jupiter in April. So Jupiter and Uranus, like I said, they're really close to the cusp of Taurus at the end of Aries when they come together in conjunction. And on the 25th of April, Jupiter is going to go into Taurus. And then on the 30th of April, the last day, Uranus is going to go into Taurus.
Ooh,
And so, and the 25th is also when Mercury retrograde ends. And it's funny, the 29th of April is World Astronomy Day. So it's a great day to go look. You can literally go look and see Jupiter in the constellation of Taurus. And so
wow.
this shift, right? This big conjunction at the end of Aries season, been like, whoa, things need to change. And then immediately they do change, right? The planets go into the new sign. And since it is Taurus, it's like, okay, time for a new foundation, time for more, something more solid. For a lot of entrepreneurs and creators, Jupiter and Taurus is a very expensive time for creating wealth and well-being and new, like you were saying, like the new foundation being dug up. Like that's a great time to start really expanding it and building it and feeling solid on it and really building new wealth. It might even be with Uranus and Aries coming together that like crypto and the use of other currencies like really resurfaces and grows. Like Bitcoin has like more than doubled in the last year, for example. I'm really mad I didn't trust my intuition and buy some. Like, dang it. But I was really focused on getting rid of debt. So I was like, I'm going to pay off all my debt, which I did. And now I'm like going to start investing more. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And then when both of these planets move into Taurus, like 5 days after each other in April, it's going to be this really powerful time to solidify and to really integrate, to truly integrate and embody this new information, this new truth that we've come into realizing during eclipse season, during Mercury retrograde, during this conjunction. And then we get to like move forward. And to me, Jupiter being in Taurus is like you get to hang out with new people and you get to do that with in person. And you also get to attract and amplify the money that you make and the value that you create in the world and how comfortable you can feel in your body. And then with Uranus and Taurus is like a whole DNA upgrade situation. And
Really?
it's also like a new relationship to technology potentially. Like it's people really understanding the power of technology, when to use it, how it can be our ultimate tool for connection and creation and sharing and making money in the world right now, like doing work digitally, for example, using those tools, even using like frequency based healing technologies like Healy or earth mats or whatever it might be, right? It's kind of this use of higher technology to ground us into the earth, but also knowing like that it's important to get time away from screens and to turn off turn off the phone and to go back to like 1990s mode where you set a time and date to meet somebody and then you meet them there because you know how to get there with your own body, not with Google Maps. And
Um,
so it's very interesting, like this opportunity that Uranus, particularly in Taurus, is going to bring about. It's like a more grounded relationship to our use of technology. Hmm.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm excited, but
Hmm.
like, wow. I hope people,
Hmm.
especially, and not that the masculine is less intuitive, but I just from what I've learned, the feminine is like very intuitive. We're very sensitive and emotional. I really pray and set the intention that our feminines get lots of rest because there will be a lot of energy moving
Hmm.
through in this next month, it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, get yourself some eclipse viewing glasses. I also just recently learned that a disco ball, and I mean, who doesn't want a disco ball in their life? But a disco ball by a window, by like the sun, will reflect the eclipse
What?
on like everywhere because it's like a mirror. Yeah, so it's so fun. So a bunch like these women on Instagram created a reel about it and people are sharing it. But yeah, you put a disco ball out near a window and then it'll like spin around and you can actually see like in the reflections you'll see the eclipse. But I think it's cool to like, wear the glasses and look up at it.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the idea of flying to somewhere where you can see it. And that was something else that was cool. I didn't know that only certain parts of the world really see it. And Canada, the US, and one other country were very, like, we're really lucky during this one, apparently, because of the visibility we get or where it's located. Which, I mean,
Let me just look up disability because I know like my one friend went to Toronto to go watch it. So let's see, path map.
I also want to put out there that anyone that is listening to this, if they have questions for Sonia next time, and please let me know because whatever we didn't speak about that people would be interested in speaking about. Usually I just hop on the call with Sonia and save all my questions because I know everything I'm interested in knowing. Everybody else would be interested in knowing too. So it's gonna have to
Mm.
wait.
Okay. Yeah, please do send me your questions. I'm also available in the DMs at Sanja Sanja, or you can find me at True Star Systems, which is where I specifically share about the cosmos. And yeah, so if you are, it's like a curve where you can see the totality of the solar eclipse. So it goes from like Durango, Mexico, up into like San Antonio and Austin, Houston and Dallas and Texas, Arkansas, part of Oklahoma, Memphis, Louisville, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Detroit, Toronto, New York, Boston. Like it's right on the edge of Philly. So if you're in Philly, like maybe go maybe go north. Into Pennsylvania. You'll see it in Ottawa, Montreal, Maine, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Quebec, Newfoundland. Let me see where else. Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
So it kind of creates this curve upwards. Yeah.
Like an eclipse. Yes, I will leave all your contact information in the description box and anything else you think of to send. But yeah, anything else you feel we should add to this one?
Just take amazing care of yourselves during this time. Whatever happens is meant to happen. Trust and surrender and, pray if you feel like you need to for clarity and direction around why some changes might be happening in your life that can feel uncomfortable or difficult. And, everything changes. Soon the eclipse season will be over. We'll be in Aries season. Uranus and Jupiter will be in Taurus. It's all one dependent. The one constant is change. So we're in it right now, but it won't be forever. And there's something beautiful to learn and wisdom to discern from this time. And if you want to learn from me or get a reading or learn about how to read the sky yourself so you can have that empowered information in your own practice or in your own life, join me in Cosmic Arts training or book a reading. All of that is on my website, soniarose.com. And the link will be in the show notes for that. So yeah, have a great eclipse season.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sanja.
You're so welcome.
Very grateful for you being here. So until next time.
Okay. Thank you.